FBI Director Kash Patel making an announcement about the Minneapolis anti-ICE insurgency that's been outed, exposed, every single domestic terror suspect in that group now identified. We are talking between 2,000 to 3,000 people, possibly more, from Minnesota involved in this, trained up to be part of this network. Cam Higbee breaking this story wide open, how the left has been so effective at combating ICE in Minneapolis. Have you wondered how it's possible that these protesters know exactly where federal agents are, where they're going, where they're moving, where they're sleeping, which hotels? This is full-blown low-level insurgency. They have their own shadow citizen-run intel service in Minneapolis, controlled allegedly by the lieutenant governor of the state.
I understand that, but they take people to Fort Snelling here, which literally was built as a concentration camp, and Alligator Alcatraz, which I think we can all agree is a concentration camp. Not saying they're Dachau. I'm not saying they're putting people in ovens yet.
So last week, the Trump DOJ subpoenaed 6 Minnesota officials, including the governor, Tim Walz, AG Keith Ellison, Mayor Jacob Frey, and others. Federal prosecutors were apparently seeking information as part of their investigation into whether these Democrat officials obstructed or impeded federal deportation operations. At the time, we thought it was about Tim Walz's public statements. That's what we were told, that these subpoenas stemmed from certain public statements that he made, but it turns out it is much more serious than that. Late Saturday night, journalist Cam Higbee broke this story wide freaking open, going undercover into the heart of this anti-ICE group, gaining access to their organizational signal groups all around the city, all around Minneapolis, and outing Peggy Flanagan, the lieutenant governor of the state, as possibly one of the organizers, saying he did so with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding, assaulting, and obstructing them. That was his motivation needed to gain access, to gain entry to this group, writing each area of the city as a signal group, or in some cases, multiple groups. Let's start with a screen recording of all members of the South Side group. And we're talking, by the way, over 1,000-member shadow police force. That's who's running Minneapolis right now. Higbee describes spending several days undercover deep within the anti-ICE command and control center, having full access to their signal groups that coordinate these pressure campaigns against ICE, noting that these members in these groups, they use emojis to designate their specific roles and responsibilities, including organizing mobile patrols that continuously search for suspected federal vehicles. They are trained, he says, with military-style manuals. For instance, when a vehicle gets flagged, its details are then shared with designated plate checkers who somehow have access to a federal database to cross-reference the plate and confirm its government issue, which we see doesn't always work. Writing dispatch runs a maxed out call all day telling protesters where ICE has been spotted and how they can best be impeded. For each occupation or shift position, protesters have to undergo training. Those are the more senior or more trusted positions. Here's a screen recording, he says, of their plate database with links to its instruction manual, pointing out that this quasi-police force uses Salute, which is used in paramilitary operations. Look, they have command and control, they have dispatchers, real dispatchers like your local PD has, who work day and night monitoring the entire city, organizing and directing their TAC teams on the ground. This is full-on, low-level insurgency at work, the definition of an insurrection. And get this, since Cam Higbee's gained access, we've learned that one of the organizers, the leaders of this group, may be the lieutenant governor herself, maybe Peggy Flanagan. Members of the group running scared now after being outed. One member asking the group, "What do we do now?" Another member responding, saying, "Run. Run where?" he asks. "I don't know. Out of state. I'm leaving tonight. I don't know what's happening. We're in so much trouble." Saying signals not secure. Once they figure out where we were, it's only a matter of time. Flan has been exposed. We're all effed. I need to leave the state. Should I leave too? Maybe best to get out of the country. Flan has been exposed, they say. Others pointing to Flanagan as well. Here's Peggy Flanagan herself talking about this group the other day. Watch.
We were just in the community of Alexandria, where the event that we had that was similar to this one was interrupted by a bunch of phones going off and people having to leave because they are trained legal observers. being trained legal observers. I don't know if anybody's gone through that training here. If you have, I appreciate it and would encourage you to do so.
Our neighbors are being disappeared. P.S. Without due process, it is just called kidnapping. Then show up and use your voice. Put your body on the line. Put your body on the line.
This is what those DOJ subpoenas, it turns out, from last week were about. The FBI now investigating if any of these Democrats are helping, have been helping, orchestrating, part of leading this anti-ICE resistance. Kash Patel says the FBI is investigating Signalgate and its ties to the Walz administration. Watch.
Okay, so this is breaking news. So you and the FBI and perhaps other intelligence agencies are fully aware of this coordinated effort to attack federal law enforcement, to impede them and potentially insurrect. And so there is now an open investigation into these chats and into this coordinated network.
Yeah,
some of them are fleeing. Some of them are very scared now. You can see their chats. They're very, very worried now that they have been exposed.
Well, they should be. If they broke the law, you should be worried. It's that simple. If you didn't break the law, there's really nothing to worry about on that front. And so, we're going to continue, as I've said from day one, we will protect law enforcement. We will make sure they have the security and safety to do their jobs. We will also ensure that civilians have the ultimate protection of the First and Second Amendment. But it is my job to adjudicate the difference when there is a breaking of federal statute or state law in the furtherance of a crime or violence against law enforcement officers, and that's when we step in.
This looks like a full-fledged insurrection. What does that word even mean, insurrection? It's defined as a violent uprising against an authority or a government. That's what this is. And it's frightening because this group is so well organized and funded. They have thousands of trained members. They have access to police databases. They have a full-blown intel network, a network that's so effective it rivals our own DHS. They're better than our own Department of Homeland Security. Think about that. They know where our federal agents are at all times, where they're going. No ICE agent can move around the city without people being there as soon as they step out of the vehicle. Last night, they attacked the hotel that ICE was in, and the Minneapolis PD was called off, told to stand down.
Were you ever ordered to stand down? Have police been told not to protect ICE?
It is deeply disappointing to have anyone question and disparage the hard work of the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department. There are 600 police officers that are left here after the destruction of the city in 2020, and they are doing an incredible job. About a dozen of our cops have been injured responding to a lot of the chaos that has resulted on the streets. Our officers respond every time there's a threat to someone's life, to public safety, or destruction in the city. And it doesn't matter whether it's because ICE is there or someone from the community is there. We are doing everything that we can to manage this chaos, but there's only 600 cops here, and there's thousands of immigration agents here.
Right.
Special Forces operator Eric Schwalm going viral on X last night, describing what we're really seeing in Minneapolis. I'm not going to read his whole post, but it's a very interesting take. He writes, as a former Special Forces warrant officer with multiple rotations running counterinsurgency ops, both hunting insurgents and trying to separate them from sympathetic populations, I've seen organized resistance up close from Anbar to Hellman. The pattern is familiar. Spotters, cutouts, dead drops, disciplined comms, role specialization, and a willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the stronger force slowly, DHS. What's unfolding in Minneapolis right now is not protest. It's low-level insurgency infrastructure built by people who've clearly studied the playbook. That's a good point. Who is funding all of this? Who's organizing it all? You expect us to believe all of this popped up in a matter of a few weeks? Signal groups at 1,000 member cap per zone, dedicated roles, mobile chasers, plate checkers logging vehicle data into shared databases, 24/7 dispatch nodes vectoring assets, salute-style reporting, which stands for size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. on suspected federal vehicles, daily chat rotations and time deletions to frustrate forensic recovery, vetting processes for new joiners, mutual aid from sympathetic locals like your teachers who are providing cover, possible PD tip-offs on license plate lookups, home-based coordination points, rapid escalation from observation to physical obstruction or worse. He says this isn't spontaneous outrage. This is command and control with redundancy, operational security hygiene, and task organization that would make a Special Forces team sergeant nod in recognition, replace ICE agents with occupying coalition forces, and the structure maps almost one-to-one to early-stage urban cells we hunted in the mid-2000s. He goes on to say the most sobering part, it's domestic, funded, trained somewhere, and directed by people who live in the same country they're trying to paralyze law enforcement in. When your own citizens build and operate this level of parallel intel and rapid response network against federal officers, complete with doxing, vehicle pursuits, and harassment that's already turned lethal, you're no longer dealing with civil disobedience. You're facing a distributed resistance that's learned the lessons of successful insurgency. Stay below the kinetic threshold most of the time, force overreaction when possible, maintain popular support through narrative, and never present a single center of gravity. This makes January 6th look like child's play, and the scariest part is, even if the FBI swoops in, like they should, like they did after J6 and arrest all of these people, I'm not sure they'd even be prosecuted. We keep seeing these judges, even juries, grand juries, side with these people, like we saw with Jim Comey. But we need to try. If we just pretend this is protesting as usual, civil disobedience, it will spread. The organization will spread to other cities. The organization will harden, become more permanent. And we're already seeing conservatives, even Fox News, falling victim to this, saying we need to back off, asking the administration what they're going to do to de-escalate the situation and maybe pull out ICE from Minneapolis